I'm David Gauntlett. I'm a Canada Research Chair in the Creative School. Today, Val and I are going to talk about our research project, which is called Reframing Creativity. We do lots of other things about creativity and practice research too, but today we're talking about this.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Valeria Duarte. I work with David in the Creativity Everything Lab, and I'm the research and project manager on Reframing Creativity. And yes, we know it might be easier to do this with two people instead of just one, but we are not cheating. It's just that we are a team.
Exactly. At the beginning of the pandemic, there were many reports talking about saving the arts, and they were often about museums and theatres and institutions like that. And not so many people were talking about the creative individual, those who were freelance or independently. So we went for the most obvious research bit in the world for us, which was about how the pandemic was affecting creative people and the work that they do.
And we called it Reframing Creativity because our goal is to understand how the pandemic made creators rethink their creative practice and reframe their creativity within this new context. Our guiding questions are, for example, how do creative people adapt and refocus in challenging times, and what lessons can we learn from them?
The project is a multi-year investigation funded by an insight grant from SHIRC and also by my Canada Research Chair, and it employs different research methods such as hands-on workshops, focus groups, and other design activities. Today, we're just going to focus on the first group of interviews that we conducted last year when the project was launched.
Yes. So talking to the first group of creators as we conducted this round of interviews was amazing and so fruitful. They were all very cool people across a range of practices. We had photographers, illustrators, or comedians, just to name a few, who talked with us and provided different and very interesting perspectives for this project.
We wanted to learn all that we could about our participants' experiences in the pandemic. So we asked lots of questions such as how they were finding inspiration during the lockdowns, what were the best and worst things that had happened because of COVID, and how they had adapted to these circumstances. And so here are some of the findings from our study so far.
So first of all, COVID really affected creators' financial stability. And this was not a surprise. It is well known and documented that creative and cultural work around the globe is often underpaid. And creators were already facing challenges around precarious careers and short-term contracts, even before the pandemic.
Yeah, and all these financial issues, of course, only got worse when contracts and events started to get cancelled. So, but with surprising speed, many of our creators pivoted to find other sources of income. That's not to say that they didn't struggle or that creative people don't need any support, of course, but we did find their creative adaptability to be quite remarkable.
Yes. Because of a massive digital migration due to social distancing, creators were interacting with their audiences mainly through the internet. And so we analyzed how this virtuality had impacted their practice, including the kind of content they were making or the skills and tools they now needed to be able to make it in a digital environment.
The DJ Sonia, for example, who also runs the independent record label Biblioteca Records, told us about how she reframed her self-perception from being highly active on the local scene to seeing herself as a global digital artist. Performing live on social media, although challenging at times, allowed her to form a new audience and connect with more people overall.
And next, we have the psychological impact of the pandemic. Almost all of our participants talked about being stressed or anxious because they had to deal with solitude, losing job opportunities, low self-esteem when comparing themselves to others that seem to be doing better, or just having to stop doing what they loved.
Of course, COVID has presented mental health challenges for many of us and for all kinds of people. But we know that creators share a special kind of vulnerability and that can benefit their work, but can be difficult to navigate, especially when it comes to separating their personal lives from their creative practice.
Now we have finding number 4, which is that around half of our participants said they have formed a new connection to nature. So stepping outside or being surrounded by nature, even houseplants, did wonders for their motivation, and that made our participants reframe the whole connection between their creativity and the natural world.
Nature also acted as a source of inspiration for their content. of their creative stuff. Some illustrators started using more natural elements in their sketches. A music producer we spoke to said he was very inspired by the silence of the lockdowns in London. Taking advantage of this window of opportunity helped produce a better picture of the deep relationship between nature and creativity.
And finally, our participants generated new perceptions about their creative identity. And this pandemic led some creators to realize that the way they understand their creative practice could be flexible and ever-changing. And when asked if the pandemic had changed them as creators, most of them quickly said yes.
Yeah. Creators realized that they did not have to understand themselves as just one thing, like a musician or designer, but they could be entrepreneurial people running different streams of activity at the same time. And in general, the pandemic was an opportunity for them to reflect on their values and motivations and identify how they would like to manage their creative practice in the future.
So it was striking to see that regardless of the many obstacles they had to face, creators were able to navigate this moment and find various opportunities to thrive in it. And we found that in general, participants were more inclined to define the pandemic in terms of possibilities and discoveries rather than problems.
Yeah, that was striking. And if you want to learn more about the project and read some cool stories about creativity and the pandemic, visit reframingcreativity.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at Reframing Creativity. Also, it's kind of unrelated, but do join me on Monday, 12 o'clock, when we've got a session on practice-based research, and I've taken these seconds to talk about that.
Yeah. So we will be happy to chat or connect if you have any questions about reframing creativity, or if you want to be involved in any way. And you can find our contact information at our website or Instagram. And this was very fun to do, and we hope you keep an eye out for further findings and activities. So thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.